to make sure that's all right. And we'll get going. I'll let people in as we go. Because we have I'm super excited, as I put in the email the other day I sent out, to have Sean and Sonia and Monica here, and we have a lot to talk about. This is part 1 of 2, and I'll explain here in a second of how we've thought about how we want to divide the stories up. And let me pull up the slides real quick. People are coming in. We're getting a lot more now, so. And do let me know if there's any, sometimes the technology gets a little wacky, like there'll be boxes in front of stuff and blah, blah, blah. So, but let me know if anything's not working. So today is the 3rd in our series of every 2 weeks for now. We want to have conversations about customized employment. Any topics related to customized employment, that's what we're talking about. Different points of view, different angles, different, I guess, concerns or questions sometimes. And so in the next flyer I send out, we're going to ask, hey, if you don't mind, send us questions or topics you'd like to see covered in the future. And one of the reasons we're doing this is tied to the Florida Artsy grants, which is focused on helping individuals who may be in or may be headed towards working at sub-minimum wage, look into community integrated employment as an option. And so customized employment and self-employment is a part of that. And so there's a lot of ripeness for these discussions, as I think we've talked before, that we're not going to just be talking about customized employment. We're going to be doing a lot of it in the future. And who better to have talk about doing it than Sean and Sonia and Monica, who are going to be able to tell their story. So I just, if it's okay, could start with just introduce yourself. Would that be okay, Sean and Sonia, and then Monica? And we'll go from there.
You want to introduce yourself? Yeah. Okay, tell them what your name is.
I'm Son Roser.
And your business name?
His name is Sango Fernandez.
Yeah.
And
I am Sonia Clark Rozier, Sean's mom. And we had the privilege of being introduced to Monica via Russell and via, I can truly say what a difference a phone call makes. And what a difference reading a paragraph in the magazine makes. But we're so happy to be here with Sean is the owner of Sean Goes Bananas, which is a dessert food truck or mobile unit south of Tallahassee, Florida.
Thank you.
Excellent. And my name is Monica Doyle, and I'm a CBTAC in Florida. And that stands for Certified Business and Technical Assistant Consultant, which is a lot of words. And I just want to say real quick, a little bit of background. When Sonia reached out to me, Russell, you gave out my number again.
I know, sorry.
And she called me, and at the time I really was not interested in taking clients because I had a couple of big cases that I was working on. And then Sonia and I started talking, and that was the end of it. When she told me about Sean and his background, I have a nephew who is autistic, and I just said, girl, we're doing it. So now we've become sisters. And also I want to welcome everybody here to this conference type of thing and wish everybody a happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
apologies to make y'all work. We already talked about that. My bad. But it fits, right? Like
It absolutely does.
Fits. The work fits the history of marginalized folks, oppression, and people are trying to rise above that, right? So
absolutely.
Great. And so the other part I wanted to mention, so Sean, you're the entrepreneur business owner, and I haven't got a chance to talk to you about it yet, so I didn't want to put it in there. But what we're trying to do in the Florida Artsy pilot is we want to have mentors. So we want people, Floridians, a big part of this is how do you build sustainability and scalability? How do you help Floridians help Floridians, with this stuff? And so, Sean, we're hoping that, that your story, you can be kind of a business peer mentor, business owner mentor, which we'll need to talk about later, but I didn't want to put that in there yet, so we had a chance to talk about it. Where other people who want to start businesses can talk to you, and get your perspective. Super valuable. And then Sonia, you definitely are a business mentor in this in the Artsy projects. So, you know, as a parent, a mom of support, you know, there's nothing like moms or dads talking to other moms or dads, right? And nothing I can say, nothing Monica can say is anywhere close to as valuable as parents, you know, supporting each other. So, so introducing that role, you guys have multiple roles, and then Monica, of course, who y'all know, the CBATAC is a horrible acronym. We need to change it at some point, but she's also going to be a mentor. So self-employment is one of the outcomes from customized employment, which we'll talk about, and so we want to build you know, CBTAC mentor group too, Monica, and then Sonia. Hopefully, you know, if you choose to become a CBTAC in the future, Sonia, as well as parent. You know, again, many hats, right? So
Yes, yes,
a lot of work needs to be done, but man, we've got some good. You know, you all in Florida got some good people, so really excited.
yes, we do.
Okay, great. And I'm Russell from Griffin Amherst, so y'all probably know me a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit, and one of the main things that what we're trying to do in Florida Artsy and in the new customized employment approach since the changes in Aware is we're trying to pull some what have been kind of seen as separate services together under the same umbrella. So Monica can share, anybody that's looked at CBTAC regs or rules or how it's described, discovery is in there. Like it's kind of a very brief version of it, not as thorough as full-blown discovery you go through if you do customized employment services. So it is described in the self-employment guide, right? And there is a way for staff, they get a little bit of training, CBTAC get a little bit of training to help people figure out who they are a little bit and what the business ideas may be. What we're trying to do, but even though that's in there, most times CBT, like self-employment work happens not really as a result of people going through customized employment, you know, and discovery being the first step of that. So see, most self-employment that you do, Monica, it's not a result of having somebody gone through like very thorough discovery and then they think, oh, self-employment, and then they find you.
Right.
It's kind of been this independent thing. Almost, I mean, random. It's like
Yeah.
Sonia. I mean, really,
Yeah.
and that's what we need to build a system. So it's not just, hey, you got lucky, you know, you read something, you made the right phone call. So we're trying to integrate that into the system as a whole. And so the way we want to describe self-employment is that's one possible outcome of customized employment. That if work is about getting paid, you know, making earnings, there's really 2 or maybe 3 ways you do that in America. If you're an adult or even a young person, you're on a payroll, which is a wage employment, or you start your own business, or maybe a combination, right? Where, you know, we all know people who have a wage job. I'm one of those people. My wife's one of those who also do something on the side. You've heard about the serial entrepreneurs, right? People who own multiple businesses. So we just customized employment just reflects reality. And so self-employment is an opportunity that people can come to after discovery. And so we just want to try to we're hoping that we'll have more CBATACs involved and to step in where like job development would typically happen. Like people decide, instead of that, people decide, well, I'm interested in starting my own business based on what was learned during discovery. And so that way, Monica, as a CBTAC, you'll have a lot more information to start with, a lot more richer information to start from. You'll be starting from like down the road a bit, right? As opposed to really, it would be very, very helpful for the CBTACs. And then I'm a guest also, I think there are going to be a number of people who are trained in customized employment and self-employment, right? So people themselves could make this switch for after discovery to jump in to you know, be a customized employment provider, and then when self-employment time, they put the CBTAC hat on, take off the customized employment hat, and that's just a funding thing, right? These things flow very seamlessly once we learn how to do it. Again, like building systems capacity to help people along the way, so it's not kind of stilted and start and stop, and we're kind of just random. So I just want to make that one of the things is that we're trying to pull all this together, that self-employment can come out of customized employment. It's just an outcome. And do you mind share Sean and Sonia just talking about this picture? It's a great picture.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this picture is actually one of my favorite, or has become one of my favorites. It's part of a photo shoot that we did for a magazine in our local community called What Color Living. And to be frank, we were the first African American family ever profiled on the cover of this magazine.
Wow.
And they actually approached us and asked us, you know, would be willing to do it. And the photographer came out, took several shots. This is actually in our backyard, like almost in front of like a little creek that we have in our backyard. And this was the photo I was hoping she would choose for the cover, but she ended up choosing a different photo in front of my husband's man cave. I guess she had some allegiance to my husband or something. But yeah, this was about 6 weeks into us starting the business. Yeah.
And that's to the right of Sean or to our left. That's your husband.
Yeah,
That's
Big Sean. Yeah,
Big
Big
Sean.
Sean and Little Sean, who
Big
is
Sean, Little
technically
Sean.
he's Big Sean now. My
I
husband.
know. That's what he can still probably whoop you. That's what my dad keeps telling me. You
Oh
think you're
yes.
bigger, but
Oh yes.
you got that old man strength. He can't.
Yes.
Okay. Oops. Okay. All right. Awesome. And then just a couple other pictures, if you wouldn't mind, and then we'll talk about CBTAC, and then we'll get going. So.
Sure, yeah. The picture on the right, Sean with the broom and everything, he is actually cleaning. That was not posing. It was our first park event here in our local area, which is south of Tallahassee, in a city called Crawfordville. And he's getting ready. We've gotten there, we've gotten the trailer set up, and he's kind of like making sure everything is nice and clean before his job coach shows up. He knows his duties when he gets on there. Initially, the first thing he does is set that square up to make sure we're ready to accept payments. And then he'll make sure everything is kind of connected. The cords are out there for his dad. And then, you know, he'll start to kind of like clean and, you know, make sure everything's kind of nice and neat before we open the window. The picture on the left is actually, that one's become one of my favorite photos as well.
Yeah.
We actually took the photo for Chase Bank because they were doing a story on us, and obviously we couldn't have the kids, you know, faces facing the camera. But they had gotten most of them got the chocolate dirt pudding, which has become a fan favorite. And Sean, they finished serving them, and the teacher asked them, turn around and, you know, lift your banana cream pudding or your chocolate dirt pudding up so we can kind of see what you guys have. And so Sean's looking out the window, almost like smiling at them. And so it's become one of my favorite photos as well. It was really hot that April morning too. We'd only been in business about a month before we did this, but it was a great day. It was a really great day.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, both of them are great shots.
Thank
Great.
you.
And then just wanted to introduce, ask Monica to introduce the CBTAC with a couple of just kind of thoughts that she wants to share. And then I'll set up the rest of the day, and then we'll go. So, thanks, Monica.
Well, I think people in Florida don't realize how lucky we are that VR supports self-employment services. It's incredible. But you know, so the self-employment program through VR kind of accommodates individuals who may need assistance in developing a business plan or contracts, or, you know, determining feasibility and helping with financials and so forth. It's a long process. I was fortunate with Sonia. I always say if people don't know Sonia, there's something wrong, because she knows everybody. And that really her participation in this plan was invaluable in helping us get this going. But self-employment services do help individuals with starting a small business, and helps in things like purchasing of tools and equipment, helping connect with community resources, obtaining initial stock and inventory and things to help them start their business, assist with marketing. Sonia's got an incredible marketing person that is helping with Sean, you know, accounting, financial kind of things that support a business startup. I kind of put it in terms of, you know, when we all first learned to ride a bike and our mom or dad is pushing us behind on the bicycle on the two wheels, kind of giving us a shove to get us going. That's what we do with self-employment. We try to make sure that there is a solid foundation to help someone get started on their self-employment journey. And the program itself has 6 or 7 steps or benchmarks or modules to complete. And all the way through, you know, customized employment is top of mind in every benchmark. When we help an individual design their business, it is specifically designed around that individual, their skills, their abilities, their, you know, their goals. And it's really, I try very hard to customize self-employment in that regard. And we've come up with some really unique business opportunities based upon a person's abilities. So I love doing what I do. It's incredible. And we've been able to really, Sonia and I talk about this. Sean will be able to support himself in some capacity for the rest of his life. And what more could you ask for? Because that's what a parent worries about with their kids. So that's the background. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Absolutely. So yeah, one way, so customized employment is literally, it's like, or excuse me, self-employment is like the essence. It's the pinnacle. You're building a whole job in a business around a person, and self-employment, there's more things you can control. There's more things you can design based on your preferences, personal genius, conditions of employment, whatever works for you, right?
Absolutely.
It is customized employment. And in fact, like Griffin Hammis, we started, Dave Hammis and Carrie Griffin, they started with self-employment. That's where they worked in Montana, where they were told there's no jobs for anybody. And so if there's no jobs for anybody, people with disabilities can't get jobs. And so they were like, well, let's try to help people start businesses then. And that's where, like, way before customized employment was developed. That's kind of in our DNA, in our kind of core origin story.
I'm just going to jump in there, Russell. That's how I became familiar with Griffin Hammis. I worked with Molly, Molly Sullivan in Iowa back in the 90s, I think, or early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was all about, and the training that you guys provide for CBTACs is such a solid foundation to make sure that we're looking at customization all the way through.
Yeah.
So yes. So awesome. So that's just to reiterate again and again, that work, customized employment's about work, and owning your own business is one way to make work for you. And there's a lot of benefits from self-employment, that can't come from wage employment. There's a lot of complexities too, which is why the process exists, and why we need to really, people need to be trained specially, in its own unique process, because the VR system and most employment specialists, they're not experts in self-employment, right? Or in the process of going from, hey, I have this idea, to startup. And and so that's
Russ, I was just going to say, initially when I approached our VR counselor, you remember this.
Yeah.
She was reluctant.
Yeah.
Mainly because she didn't feel like she had the level of expertise necessary, to do. She said, "Oh, I know about it." And the last person I remember, maybe it took them 3 years. I'm not even sure if they finished. Yeah. And then I consulted with you, and you were like, "Let me have a conversation with her to assure her and make her feel more comfortable." Yeah. And once that happened, she was on board.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just counselors and even like that's why, like, family members and individuals, they're just, sometimes it seems like such a out of this world option. Like, I can own my own business. What are you nuts? Or it's like people, it's like, yes, but it's not just, we're going to be like, go sit, go do it tomorrow. There's a whole, step-by-step methodology behind it. Yeah. And they're, and people are trained. And so the way to describe, I think in the simplest ways, Monica, it's like, I like to think of you as a business coach, in the way that you do, like a career counselor helps people with wage jobs. Your pathway is self-employment, and other CBATACs. And it's a very natural, just a very natural part of American life. You grow up and you mow lawns, or you sell lemonade, or you babysit. I mean, it's something that, we're not saying that, I don't know, Sean, if you want to become like the next Bill Gates, of banana cream pudding or whatever.
Pudding, sure.
But most people have something they're interested in, they like to do, that has meaning, it's meaningful to them. Whether it's a family recipe, or in good times around that, and other people really love it, or they have a skill or whatever, and they just want to start there, right? And see where it goes, and make a decent living,
And so, luckily we live in a current climate that, that really fosters that.
Yes. Yep. So
absolutely. There would be two things that I would say here. Number one, I can remember when the first thing is when you tell people that they're gonna, we're gonna look at self-employment. I don't know anything about business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not good at math. So many things that are, and Sonia and I had this conversation yesterday. When Sonia and I started working on the financials, kind of mapping things out. She's like, I can't do this.
Mm.
And what did you tell me yesterday? She has fired her accountant.
Hire the
She doesn't need an
accountant.
accountant.
Yeah. Realize that, we can we're a small business. We're not managing millions of dollars or even tens of thousands of dollars every month. But it's enough to keep us going and to, work toward more for Sean and more opportunities. But I was like, you know what? Why do I even have him? And even some of the software that we were utilizing, I realized that I just need this Excel spreadsheet to have everything ready so that when it comes time for tax time and, and then filing taxes, I just need to have everything in order so the accountant can take it and work with it and file our taxes. Why do I have this guy? This makes no sense. What is he doing?
But that's also part of the journey. I
Yes.
think a lot of people, like, they say, oh, I need QuickBooks. And it's like, they don't even know about QuickBooks. So why, so we really did design it with pretty simple spreadsheets. And then how, especially with, like, for example, the Square and the reports that kick out, that's when you're saying, wait a second, it's giving me all my data.
Yeah.
Why do I
Exactly.
need that? And
Yeah.
then the other thing I wanted to talk about, which was really important, was how you came to determine that this might be a good business for Sean. I mean, let's talk about how this all
Yes. Yeah.
happened.
Could I just thank you so
Sure.
much,
Go ahead,
Mike.
Yeah.
Russell. Yeah.
I'm gonna take off the I'm gonna take off the slides now and we'll just talk, if that's all right.
Sure.
But we're just thinking, just want to set that's kind of the design that we think that we wanted to do, which would be the origin story of, like, how did this start? And that would be the rest of part one up to startup. And then the part two will be you describing day one of operations and beyond, if that's okay, just to let everybody else know that. And I did want to say that maybe the seventh one is support with startup and operations. if needed.
Implementation.
Yeah, implementation.
Implementation, yes, which we're kind of still going through right now, obviously.
Yeah.
But how it started was many years ago, almost a decade ago, I owned a catering business, and I was sharing with Monica and Russell that people still call me for this pudding, this banana cream pudding. And by the way, full disclosure, I am allergic to bananas. But I always love banana flavoring. I always love it's just the texture of the banana. I'm not sure if it's the feel, not sure what it is, but I have just allergic reaction, get nauseated, everything when it comes to bananas. But I always wanted to have a nice cold pudding. And so for about 10 years, we worked on this recipe, we perfected it. And even if my catering business closed down, people would call me about doing this pudding. So we were preparing for an event at our church. And my husband had just retired from the state of Florida and from Leon County Schools. And he said, Sean done, us, we have all these things, little containers of pudding to prepare. He can come and help us. And Sean had already had 3 years of culinary at Wacolo High School. And at the time, he was, was he working at Small Cakes? I think he was working at Small Cakes. He was working at Small Cakes, which is a small cake that at the time one of our friends owned. And so Sean came in, started, setting the containers out, crushing cookies, just kind of like doing this thing. And my husband looked at him.
Hey, Sonia. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Whenever you turn to the left a little bit, I think you
We
got a
lose
Mike's
you.
range. So sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And my husband said, I think we could probably do this as a business for Sean. And so when I retire. And so that's kind of what we were working toward. And how the story goes is that Christmas I worked full-time for FSU Center for Autism. And I found a book that Disability Rights Florida had put out, and in the front cover, it was about, I think, Lua or Lupa. It was a case that Griffin Hammonds had helped with regarding I think discrimination, self-employment. I'm not sure what it was. I can't remember. But nevertheless, I started reading her story, and I was like, who is Griffin Hammonds? Like, what are they? I've never heard of them. But you guys had helped. I think it was Lupa, or I think her nickname was Lupa. But nevertheless, you guys had worked with her. So that Christmas, I reached out to Kendra Yates. And Kendra said, I think I know somebody you should call. And Russell's in West Virginia. And I'm calling him over Christmas break. And Russell's like, I had to take my daughter back. She's, flying back to college, but give me a couple of days, I'll call you back. And sure enough, he did. And I gave him all the information. We talked, and he said, I think I know someone in Florida who might be willing to work with you. And so that was the connection. And I was working on a grant at the time with FSU and FAMU. And I was driving home one night, that Monday night, so maybe early January, and I text Monica, not her even knowing who I was outside of Russell introducing me via text or phone call. And Monica, says back in text, say I'm unorthodox or something, like I'm up all night or I work unorthodox hours or something like that. So call me when you finish your grant meeting, which is like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I'm driving home. And I call her, and sure enough, she says she doesn't remember this, but this is what she said. She said, "Give me your spiel." There was no hello, good evening, how are you? He said, "Give me your spiel." And so I give her my elevator speech, 1 minute. This is what we're thinking about doing. This is what we like to do, or kind of develop for our son. And she sits there for about maybe 15, 20 seconds. It's like just the line is totally mute. And I'm like, "Hello, are you there?" And Monica said, she said, "I was prepared to tell you no. But because I have a nephew who is autistic, and Sean also has the ID diagnosis, she said, I'm going to tell you yes." And from there, we've been, soul sisters ever since. So, from there, that was January of 2023. And I think, Monica, correct me if I am incorrect, I believe by October, we had an approved plan. I think it was October of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an approved plan. So it was a lot of long nights. Those benchmarks are not easy. If someone is considering doing this, that fourth benchmark, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one with all the financials. And oh my God, it was so scary. It took us probably maybe 6 weeks to 2 months to even just do that benchmark. And it was very scary. I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly. What do you think? But Monica was there to kind of guide and lend her expertise, and we have a complete plan signed off on that came back with maybe one or two questions from the VR supervisors, really pivotal important questions, but otherwise everything else was just kind of minor things that we needed to tweak in the plan. And February 7th, Sean's goes bananas. The trailer was being delivered from St. Petersburg.
Give a quick, Monica, the counselor who was involved.
Oh,
If you guys might,
phenomenal.
Sean and yeah.
Rhonda was really incredible. And we did kind of another seminar for the Center on Self-Employment that included Sonia, Sean, myself, and Rhonda. And that might be another one good to put on the next one, a link to that. But Rhonda actually talked about this in terms of from a counselor's point of view. And she talked about how it was for her to do it because that was really her first self-employment case. She was able to join us on that video because she had since moved over to Blind Services, and Rhonda actually came to the grand opening, and just wonderful. But it is scary from the standpoint of a VR counselor, and that's something that I've been doing this long enough to realize I've made every mistake that you can make. And I've gotten to the point where I can help guide through as much as I can, and it works out fairly well. But a lot of counselors are really leery about taking on a self-employment case because it is extra work for them. And especially if you've not done it before, and to do, let's say, if you need a prior approval or the different additional steps that they have to do. And like, for example, Sonia and I were just working yesterday on her final maintenance reimbursement because there were certain items that we needed that we couldn't find a vendor for. And so they did some purchasing of like the shoes and the aprons and different things like that. The other thing that was very interesting, Sonia talked about they had a little adjustments for us to make. And Sonia and I, we really worked well together. It's been an honor to meet her and become her friend and all sorts of things. But I could not believe the two things that they were worried about, which was, I think we had budgeted $45 a month for storage for the trailer. And I think we asked for 6 months, and they were like adamant, nope, only do 3 months. It's only 3 months. That's all we can do. So
Mhm.
Sonia and I are looking at each other, fine, what that's it. And then the other thing was, which really surprised me, was I know a little bit about people with autism. I had learned Sean's story with him working at Small Cakes. And as we know, sometimes people with autism, it's the sensory things that kind of set us off. It's loud or something happens and we need a little private space. At Small Cakes, they actually had a storage room where Sean could go if he needed to just step away for a few minutes. All right. So we needed to build that into the plan, customized employment.
Absolutely.
So we built into the plan to have that back porch. In fact, if you could pull up the picture of that trailer for us,
Yep.
we actually built the back porch
Mhm.
onto the trailer for that
Mhm.
reason.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Okay.
cool, they're on the
Which
left
is-
side.
Yes, on the left side.
picture,
And
yeah.
there is a railing that you could put there that he could be kind of by himself if we needed. We could do curtains or just building a safe place for Sean.
And the doorway on the right side where you see the people in the back through the doorway, that's the door into that
Into it.
space.
Mhm.
right?
Yep, to that
Mhm.
space, yeah.
Yeah. And they fought us on that like crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking
Yeah.
like, wait a minute,
Really?
you guys are VR counselors and you know Sean is autistic.
Yeah.
Why would you, I mean, we had to fight for that,
Right.
which really surprised me. But other than that, they were very supportive of the plan. And I will tell you, it went quicker than most cases because of Sonia's connections. I mean, it was like, well, we need somebody. Oh, I've got somebody who can do that. Oh, my
Mhm.
brother does this. My cousin
Mhm.
does that. Ding, ding, ding.
All
And-
hands on deck, yes.
Yeah, and really, Sonia really made this happen as much as I did. But again, that customization, we looked at everything. I'm just going to say Sonia is kind of mentoring another one of my clients right now who's doing a shaved ice business. Okay, you think, wow, it's really simple. It's very similar to what we're doing here. The problem is my client had a stroke and he only has one arm.
Right.
So all of a sudden, we need to develop things that are done by foot and not
Mhm.
by hand.
Mhm.
And if he's going to run the business by himself, what supports do we? So Sonia's been incredible. But like, for example, down to thinking about the mechanics, Sean has his square set up in the window. And with what we're doing with this other person, we want to mount the square on the wall for him so he can use his good arm. And so we need another device so that the customer can see.
Mhm.
Whereas Sean can just flip his around. So again, when we look at customization, it's at every level of how can we really support this person. We're very fortunate that with the help of APD and Sean has a job coach.
Mhm.
And so it does take quite a few things, community involvement and all hands on deck. But this was a business that was built for Sean.
And that's the point of, I think a lot of times the first, and in a second, I want to just ask you to describe, okay, you met each other, then what was next, to talk through that real quick. And then we'll leave like maybe 10 minutes at the end for questions. But that's the point of the business planning process, right? Because I think if you bring up the idea of self-employment, people already jump to the end. Well, how could that ever work, right? What's
Right.
like somebody, like you says, he has full use of one arm. How could that ever work?
Right.
And it's not at the beginning of the process, it's not Monica's job or Sonia's job or Sean's job to know how that would work. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to together,
That's
we're
right.
going to go down this process and we're going to figure things out. Right. And we're going to identify, like, if there is a support need, well, then how does that support need get met? If there are costs, right? Like you said, like, like you don't know, like a lot of people are afraid of the numbers at first, right? So, well, I don't do numbers. How can I do a business? Well, you can pay an accountant or pay a bookkeeper,
Mhm.
right? And like you said, like typically it's just somebody to build the system for you, and then you learn the system, and then
Yes.
and then you need an accountant for taxes, but the bookkeeping
Mhm.
part, oh, we got it. Until
Mhm.
you expand, and then you may need to pull in somebody else again to help you figure that
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
But that's the whole process of, well, how did person X run a business? Like that's what we're doing here, right?
Mhm.
The assumption is there are many options for how this business could possibly have turned out. Through the business planning process, you found what works for you best, Sean, and the design, and the supports and who the is, the price points, how much things cost in terms of supplies,
Yeah.
marketing. Um, and so I think
What's our pricing strategy, Sonia?
Oh, princess pricing.
Princess
Princess
pricing.
pricing.
what does that mean?
Princess,
Sorry.
they'll pay it. Princess
Yes,
pricing. I mean, you
princess
have to get paid
prices.
for your time. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to really consider everything. I think a
Yep.
lot of times you're just delivering a product, but there was time invested in putting that product together. There was
Yeah.
time invested in transporting that product. There was time invested in developing. All of that has to
Yep.
be considered. So that's princess pricing.
Cool. So you learn, yeah. So that's the
That's
process. Is like
all my
it's
clients will
yeah,
know princess
princess.
pricing. One of the things I find, I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here,
That's okay.
Russell, but almost every self-employment client that I work with in the beginning looks at things from their inner eye. They say, I can't afford to pay $5 for pudding. So no one would pay $5 for pudding.
Mhm.
Okay. And that is a big barrier, again, to work through in the customization. We did another self-employment presentation for the Center on Self-Employment. And my client started out and I said, okay, so how much are you going to charge for your service? And she told me $20 an hour. And I said, oh, no, you're not. You're going to start at 40.
Mhm.
And she said, okay. So she got her first client and she charged him 20. She
Mhm.
confessed afterwards. She said, Monica, I charged him 20. And I said, was it worth it? And she said, no.
Mhm.
And now 6 years later, she's getting $150 an hour. Now she would have never thought that.
Mhm.
But that is a big, sometimes we're our own worst enemies.
Mhm. I would agree. Yeah.
So
I would
how do
definitely agree.
you so that's a great question of understanding the market and what is your market and understanding that you're not selling to everybody necessarily, right? You don't have to sell to everybody. It's a big world out there, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I like the other idea. Carrie used to always say, people will argue with your data, but they won't argue with their own data. Like they have to have that experience maybe of
Mhm.
shoots, 20 bucks an hour. I lost money. It wasn't worth my time. So no, I know, Monica, you told me that 25 times, but people have to learn it for themselves.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that's something that we'll get into with the next seminar that you're going to do. We plan as much as we can.
Yeah.
We do our research, we make the best. And one of the things I tell all my clients is, number one, no matter what we've done, we're going to forget something.
Mhm.
And number two, the minute we start, something's going to change it.
Yep.
And so we, again, build that pivoting flexibility, knowing, because you don't want somebody being devastated, like if they go and do their first event and nobody shows up,
Mhm.
mhm.
And that
Yeah.
happens. That definitely happens. Like the event we did Saturday, we knew it was a small event, but the people that were over the event, we've been friends for 20 years. He's loved Sean since he came into the world. How could I tell him no and not show up? But we sold out. We only went with about 50 pieces, and in an hour and a half, we sold out. So we still had a good day. We made a little bit of money, cleared a little bit of profit. It's 3 minutes from our house. So it kind of worked out. And plus we had the sheriff come by. So that worked out. We were able to publish Sean's picture with the sheriff on our Facebook page. And of course, that gained, 4 or 5 more followers and likes. So, okay, there's our payoff right there.
Yeah.
Cool. So if we could go through that in the next 10 minutes. So you guys meet, you guys clearly, Sean and Sonia and you guys hit it off. You see a vision. So
Mhm.
what's next, if you
Yeah,
don't
we
mind?
kind of, Monica, you may have to go through those benchmarks per se, but I remember us definitely analyzing the market for sure. I remember this huge market analysis that we had to do, like She had me out scouting. I was sitting there almost like a stalker with a couple of the food trucks down the street from us. And one of the
Right.
ladies I ran into about a month ago, we were doing an event together. And I said, I kind of stalked you for a while and kind of spied on you for a while, just kind of seeing how you were operating, what you were doing during the downtime when customers weren't there. She runs a Thai food truck and she's very, very sweet. And so, I got to kind of look at how others, what are they doing? How much product are they taking out? What can they do with what's left over? Which we've had to develop a process for that. At least, 2 or 3 events, we've had things left over. But I was able to add a button on our square that counts the complimentary items. And so we just decided we donate them to law enforcement. We donate them to the firefighters and the EMS. And then I was like, I can't let law enforcement just get all the goodies. So I called my friend a few weeks back and she said, why don't you donate them to the nursing home workers? And it was on Memorial Day weekend. So I thought, oh my God, that's a great idea. And they were so happy. We ended up gaining customers out of that particular experience. But basically from there, just kind of developing, what do we need? Like Monica mentioned our marketing person who I think we're about to lose. She's been accepted to law schools, so I'm not sure how long we'll be able to hold on to her. But she has been phenomenal just with the social media, which I was not familiar with at all. But just kind of we had to figure out what works, and Monica's right because what we thought was going to be our market, which was i.e. Florida State football games, FAMU football games, actually it's ended up being the opposite. We found that our base comes with our state employees here, that those are the ones that are really waiting for us to support us when we pull in. There are like 5 people there before we can even plug in or get the generator going. Next thing you know, there are 10 or 20 people coming out of the door and they've asked us back every time before we could even leave. And we've sold out every time. And they've given us just wonderful, compliments on Facebook. But from there, really trying to figure out what your market is and really not being afraid to just delve into the marketing aspect of it, the financial aspect of it. And I think for me, the launch was probably where my anxiety really built up. We had people coming from like 2 or 3 different states and from all over. We had a lot of people come in from all over to support us. Monica, Cece, who did our task analysis for Sean. We had people flying from Chase Bank in Miami. 3 of them came to support us. The local Chase Bank came to support us. So just really not wanting to let others down that have invested so much in you. That's and Russell as well. Russell could make it, but he promises me he's coming
I'll be there.
summer, I think.
We'll be there sometime for sure.
So yeah.
Well,
so Mom, you want to talk more about the process?
Yeah, I only came because I'd been hearing about this pudding for a year and I finally got to taste it.
And she left with a huge trifle bowl. Hers was all pretty and everything.
Oh man, did she make me a beautiful setup.
How did you find the marketing person?
Actually, it's interesting because our original accountant was going to be my cousin here. Their family's very popular. Their last name is Sai. Same last name as I, but I won't disclose who their son is because everybody will be like, "Oh, I know him." But anyway, his mom was going to be our accountant at the time, and I mentioned to her. I said, "What about your daughter doing our marketing and social media?" And she said, "Well, I don't even use my daughter for our own businesses, and they have like 4 businesses." She said, "Here's who I use, Groundbreaking Strategies." And turns out the young lady is just a go-getter. She is one of the governor's ambassadors.
Wow.
She has earned 2 master's degrees. She has just been accepted to law school. She worked for the Chamber of Commerce, which didn't
Wow.
hurt at all.
Yeah.
And she's just a phenomenal individual at 26 years old. Nobody believes
Wow.
she's 26 years old. And so she has come aboard and just done a phenomenal job. And I am trying to figure out how are we going to replace her once she goes to law school. She assures us she's going to stay on with us, but I know it's going to be difficult, especially the first year of law school. My sister's an attorney, so I know it's going to be difficult. But she has really just kind of established a foundation for us with making sure that the branding all looks the same. You may see a light blue Sean goes banana shirt in the picture. Monica has a light blue one, but we have dark blue ones. But everything is kind of synonymous and looks the same around Sean's branding, the yellow and the blue, and really kind of keeping Sean front and center. She is determined to do that. And every time she posts something on Facebook, on Instagram, she keeps Sean front and center.
Nice.
And that carries through from her website to her Facebook page to, that branding is really important.
Yeah.
As you go through things. So
when you were doing market research, like going out and stalking people or just checking people out, What was if you don't mind me asking, what was the closest you saw that would be like similar to your product, Sean and Son? You know what I mean? Like, was there? I know when I was in New Orleans, my favorite thing about New Orleans, and it's not the same as what you're doing, obviously, but are snowballs, which are very different than snow cones. Snowballs are their own beautiful thing.
You're
So,
absolutely right.
but I'm just
Shaved ice.
Yeah.
Snowballs is different than shaved ice. I don't. We'll have
Yeah,
this
they're
conversation.
crunchier. Yeah.
but,
I'm learning all about that.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, but I'm just
Yeah,
joking.
we have a business here called Snowballs, as a matter
Yeah.
SNEAUX, spelled like
Yeah.
New
Oh, yeah,
Orleans.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
version.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
what was there anything like some close or in the same universe?
yeah, very similar.
Thai food, you said Thai food, right? Was the person you was
Thai food,
talking,
yeah,
which
she's
I
called
love, but
Zip
oh,
Zap.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but
No,
that's a
she's
different,
called Zip Zap. Yeah,
yeah,
she's wonderful.
yeah.
As far as the actual market itself regarding banana pudding here, one of our family friends owned a bakery here called TC's Bakery.
Mhm.
And my cousins that I mentioned earlier that were initially going to be our accountants, they own something here called Southwood Sweet. And so she furnishes banana pudding for their business. She furnishes a lot of their goodies and everything. But there's also a company here that was called it's on the radio all the time. Something pudding. It wasn't TK's, it was something else, but they specialize in banana cream pudding. And so we sampled it. We sampled it once. You know, they have a hot pudding. And they also have a location. So when Monica and I were preparing the marketing and doing the marketing research, I said, here's the difference. We can take ours to the customer.
Yeah,
You know, I had to go and purchase theirs,
right,
which
right.
actually, may limit me being able to, I may want banana pudding one day and I don't feel like driving 18 miles,
Yeah, yeah,
to get the pudding. But we can take ours out to the people, to the customers, tell them where we're going to be, when we're going to pop up, all of that. But as far as those are the two things closest, but I found out we're getting ready to do an event on August 9th in the Southwood Office Complex, which is one of the huge state office complex here. And she and I have been corresponding. She said, just want you to know there's also another mobile unit called the Pudding Junkie that will be here as well.
okay.
And I said, tell him to bring it on.
Healthy competition.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to add in one more thing, to kind of tie this all together is that Sonia had an interesting comment about how the original thought was to have these events at certain times. And now they are able to pick and choose because part of Sean's quality of life is involved. Sonia, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Sean is very actively involved in FSU, Florida State University's Best Buddies. That is, Best Buddies has an event. Sean is going to be there. For example, they have their first summer event on Friday, and he has a doctor's appointment. He's like, "Are we going to be back in time for my Best Buddies event?" But he just kind of has a lot going on with that. He was very active with that. Even the young ladies from Small Cakes that he used to work with, our friend sold Small Cakes, by the way, but he's still very involved with them. So really what our schedule looks like for the most part is usually on Wednesdays, we'll start kind of planning. We need to purchase, this much product. Thursday, we kind of solidify it. Friday, we start getting everything together, getting everything ready. Saturday, we go out. And when we come back in, usually Saturday afternoons, unless it's really hot, and it has been lately, Sean knows I've got to clean that trailer out. I've got to sweep that trailer out. I've got to wipe those counters down. I've got to open those refrigerators so that they're not left closed, making sure that everything kind of dries. So he just has a really involved schedule. And so I said, hey, Monday and Tuesday are kind of like your, relaxed days. You can kind of do what you want to do or need to do. But the other days are committed, to the business. So that's what I think customized and self-employment.
And then if there's a weekend where you guys have a project or something, self-employment gives you that flexibility.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's a little background.
Have you done, you were saying at the beginning that you thought the FSU football games, have you tried that yet?
Well, actually, that is going to be on our calendar, but
Okay.
I think that we found that with the state agencies, that is something we can really depend on,
Yeah.
twice a month or 3 times a month. They're happy to see us. And if we can plug the football games in, basketball games in or whatever, then, we can do that.
Yeah.
FSU is a little funny. They're like, okay, you only can be within this many feet of the stadium
Right.
because obviously they have contracts, with companies and things like that.
Right.
But we
right.
were able to locate a family friend that has a business very close to the stadium. So, we'll go out and give it a try and
Check
kind
it
of see
out.
how it goes. We're not sure if people want pudding at 9 o'clock in the morning when they're walking up, for an 11 o'clock kickoff or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But
If you have a night game, you'd sell out in a second because people
I
are
was
a
gonna say,
little
but our
after
night
drinking a
game,
little bit during the day. They don't need to be a
yeah,
little
but our
high.
night game,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, so that's your base business, and then this could be because I
exactly.
can imagine that could be really lucrative,
Yes.
but it doesn't happen regularly. And like you said, the complexities because FSU, I know like state
Yes.
universities are very protective over the
hmm
money they can potentially generate for everybody. And
Yes, they are. We had someone reach out to us from FSU to do like a pre-collegiate program this summer,
yeah,
and we have to sign up to become a vendor.
yeah,
And then she told me that you actually have to have permission 2 weeks in advance to even bring the trailer on campus,
yeah, very
even though we're a
complicated.
vendor.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
cool.
yeah, lots
Yeah.
of different logistics we have to work
Yes.
out before
Yeah.
that'll happen.
Right. So some lucrative but more complex. Like
Exactly.
whereas other places they're more regular, not as the entry barrier is lower, and you build up your like who knows you, your kind of your usual,
Mhm.
repeat customers, that kind of stuff. So cool. The only other thing I was gonna ask before we open to questions is Monica, you both had mentioned it, this idea like you start with one idea and you end up somewhere else. That is almost like I would say that's the rule almost, right? Is that because
Yeah.
there's a lot involved, you can't know like what exactly who your customer is going to be or what the like the workflow is going to be exactly, right? Like
That
the
happens
steps.
more often than not. And if you don't necessarily change your direction totally,
Right.
but like I have a person that's interested in doing a balloon business. But as we got into it and found out we've got barriers of transportation and space and all, we have morphed that balloon business into something specific
Yeah.
through
So
our research.
yeah, yep. All right. So adaptability, right? And I think that for any like that's business in general, right? The flexibility, the ability to shift based on market demands or how things change or an opportunity.
I like Sonia calls it pivot. We got to
Pivot.
pivot.
Yes,
Pivot.
pivot.
Gotta know how to
Yep,
pivot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Yeah, I think
And again,
that's
I
all.
love Griffin Hammis
Oh,
and this format because it really, each benchmark challenges you in a different way. It challenges you to think about things. And one of the things I said to Sonia is, I think crazy. I don't think like normal people.
mhm.
So, I think about, well, wait a minute, he only has one arm that he can use. We've got to adapt for that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
so.
Yep. And then only other thought I had, and we'll open up to questions, is just the core. I think the core question, and maybe we can start with this next time from any funder, is how do you know you're going to sell, right? You have to come up with projections.
Mhm.
And then the question is how, sales projections, sorry, costing projections, 3 years, I think, is what
Mhm.
typically,
Mhm.
it's like, how do you know that a year from now, 18 months or the first week, right? And
Mhm.
so like that's part of the point of the business plan is to get data to build those assumptions. But that's the core question I think of any funder is how do we know this is accurate, right? And we can start with that next time. And then the other part, like you've already answered to, is what makes your product stand out or unique or different, right? Like how do you differentiate yourself? Obviously in the quality of the product, but then also like you're saying, like we come to you. There's a lot of other pieces too.
Yeah. And
That
we're not
And
just banana cream pudding. We're doing, other things like that. Chocolate dirt pudding was just a one-time
right,
thing
right.
that we were going to do.
Yeah,
And it has remained a fan favorite that everyone, the state agencies continue to ask for. And
nice.
then what we decided to do is just each month we'll pick, like this last month was our key lime pie. This month is a luscious lemonade pie. And then we have a pink lemonade cake. So we don't have to do a lot of that, but give some variety if you don't want pudding. And
Yeah,
here's another alternative. And we also have a gluten-free zero sugar low fat version of the pudding, which people really seem to like just as well as the other one. So
yes.
And then the other aspect is when you talk about your quality of your products is people support it because of Sean.
absolutely. Absolutely. I would absolutely
Absolutely.
agree with that.
He
Yes.
has touched so many people in a short amount of time.
Yes. Yes. Particularly in our community here where everyone knows our family. And they're just like, oh my God, the school system, they've been very supportive. We went out and did three of our 7 schools for teacher appreciation and delivered to 2 others. So 5 out of the 7 reached out. And so just been a lot of support in the community.
All right, perfect. So let's open it up. Any questions or comments or for Sean, for Sonia, for me, for Monica? In the last 4 minutes?
I have a question. This is April Santos.
Yeah.
So my question is for Sean. What do you like the most about running your own business?
Well, we talked about business. What did you say you like the most about the business?
Um,
What do you always tell me?
um,
Say it louder.
Undercurrent.
He's a co-anchor of his
I
business.
can use
And you like serving who? Who do you like serving?
to the customer.
He loves his customers, comes out of the trailer, takes pictures with his customers and everything. And he likes setting that square up too. He likes being able to control that square and knowing, it actually contains an iPad, of course, if you're familiar with the square system, but he has that down to a science. So I think really being able to see, this is the fruit of my labor. Throughout the process, he does help with labeling, still crushing the cookies. We have found that me doing the pudding has actually worked out a little bit better because I kind of know what it's supposed to look like more than he does, what it's supposed to kind of sample like more than he does. But definitely meeting his customers and working that square, I think is what he likes the most. Is that, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sonia.
Do you guys, to Mike Cass, do you take, is it only, is it non-cash based? Do you take cash?
Oh, we take cash.
Take-
Yes.
okay.
Yes, we used
Okay.
to go out. I probably shouldn't say this. We used to go out with like $200, like to make change. And Mom was like, "No, you only need to take $100 in cash to make change." So now we go out there with all these $1 bills, and there's a science to that too. Especially if you put a tip jar out. I've learned that there's a science to that. Monica taught me that. I never even thought about that. If the change is $10, you get back 5 and 5 ones because we
Yeah.
appreciate tips. But yeah, so we do accept cash in the Square. If you guys are familiar with Square, it accepts pretty much every form of payment you can think of.
Yeah.
They've really been a joy to work with. I mean, really, and easy. If you're thinking of starting a small business or have clients, I would suggest the Square because it is so easy to get set up. I mean, it is just wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Beyond simple.
Other questions? Thank you, April.
If we're waiting for other questions, I will say people need to stand by for part 2 of this presentation because we did, Sonia did have to pivot and we learned a lot even at our grand opening, we learned a lot.
We did.
And that you're always continually learning, adjusting, and so forth. And they've done tremendous.
Yeah. And it's always good to have fresh eyes. Like even the table you see in the picture there. Initially, Monica told us to move the table to the other side. My best friend was out helping us out a couple of weeks ago when we were at Emergency Management Services. And she said, why don't you just sit it up here instead of, when people purchase, you have to always remind them, don't forget to grab, your spork and your napkin. She was like, why don't you just sit it up here? And we did, and it has worked out wonderfully. It really has.
Yeah, and it made a difference too with, I can see in the picture here, you have your order and pickup window. We learned that on our first event.
Yes, we did. We learned that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to give a lot of shout out to my husband because it's been a job really learning how to just pull the trailer. One of our friends at Amicus Brewery here, he runs a construction company, and he said, wow, Sean, this is a really big trailer to, for you to be a beginner and to just be learning how to drive. He said, you probably should have started with something smaller, but hey, it is what it is. But he was like, I think you're doing a really good job. So initially those first couple of times we wanted to just tear each other's heads off. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But he's gotten really good with that. So I'm really thankful for him. So we all are kind of learning our places, I think.
Definitely.
Perfect. All right. Well, cool. Well, we're at time or past time actually. So so next time we'll be talking about launch implementation day 1 on. When did you just When was your first event, your first launch?
Launch was March 7th, at Florida State University at the School of Communication Disorders. They were just so gracious, and we had a wonderful, successful launch.
Nice. So approach almost 4 months, 3.5
4
months ago. Yeah. 4
Yeah.
months ago.
4 months in.
Yeah, the grand opening, that was a great day. That was a
It
great
beautiful
day.
It was a beautiful day. And I'm sure I have pictures of that, so I can send you those, Russell, for next time.
Perfect. Well, awesome.
Thank you for this
Thank you so
opportunity.
much, Sean. Thanks,
Oh, thank you.
Sonia.
Oh, thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks, Monica. Thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you.
Thank
next
you
time.
all. All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.